All right. So then the next question, and we may not have time for a third question because this one is going to be in multiple parts. Uh, in Galatians 1:8, and you can choose not to address this if you like, and we can go to a different one. But in Galatians 1:8, Paul, I think it was Paul, wrote, "But should we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached to you, then let him be accursed." And that prompts a handful of questions. And one, which gospel is Paul referring to as the one true gospel that he teaches?
Well, he's not talking about a written gospel. For Paul, gospel does not mean a book. It was only later, actually, that the term gospel came to be applied to books. Gospel in Greek means good news. And for Paul, the good news is, in this particular context in Galatians, the good news is that Christ's death and resurrection bring salvation not only to Jews, but also to Gentiles who don't have to become Jews. So Paul's saying that because the reason he's writing Galatians is because there are other Christian missionaries who've come in who told these Gentile converts the men have to be circumcised or they can't be following Jesus because he's the Jewish Messiah. And Paul's saying, no, that's completely wrong. And he's going to insist, I got this revelation from God himself. And so I know that's wrong. Christ is salvation for everyone, whether Jew or Gentile. And if anybody says something different, they're wrong because I heard it straight from God.
Okay. And that would prompt a different question if I was part of that. Like, how do you a lot of different people say that God talks to them. And sometimes it's different versions of God. Sometimes it's different God with different names. And yet everybody has this personal revelation. I often refer to the Beatles and George Harrison specifically, and the way he talked about having a personal relationship with Lord Krishna, that he could see him and hear him and have two-way conversations with him. All of that. And like, he seems like he has a more personal relationship with his God than you do with yours.
Yeah, well, that was the funny thing, was it 1972 when My Sweet Lord came out, that when they were and Christians heard the first half of that song and thought it was singing about Jesus. But then they start chanting Hare Krishna and they realize, oh my God, he's got a different Lord.
Brilliant. Now, the next part of that question, referring to what Paul was talking about, is how is it even theologically possible that an angel could preach another gospel? And if you're saying that it's good news, well, then how is an angel teaching good news that would have that angel being cursed? Because it's not the gospel that Paul said.
So Paul's using two things about that. One is Paul's using a kind of an exaggeration to make his point that he doesn't care who or what says something different. His message is from God, and even a messenger from God, if they say something different, they're not really from God. So the second part of this is that he subscribes to the idea that there are also evil angels, fallen angels, and so he's referring he. So you might think that this is a messenger of God, but in fact, it's one of the fallen angels who'd be saying that.
Okay, is there a difference between angels and demons, or are demons just fallen angels?
So in antiquity, there were various understandings of fallen angels. There's a lot of discourse about fallen angels because of Genesis chapter 6, one of these great passages that people don't pay enough attention to, where the sons of God, these are angelic beings in heaven, look down upon daughters of men and see that they're beautiful. And so they come down and have sex with them, and they produce these giants who take over the earth. And so that strange passage, whatever it originally meant, was a part of Jewish lore for centuries, and then Christian lore for centuries, who these angels were. And there developed traditions in both Judaism and Christianity that these were demonic-like figures. And so, in some versions of the story, these are the angels that became demons. Um, but there are other understandings of demons as not necessarily being the ones referred to in Genesis 6, but just being malevolent beings who are that God has human enemies and God has supernatural enemies too.
The next one then is was it Paul that wrote this? Is Pauline
Yeah,
Galatians?
yeah.
Okay, so then Paul is he thinking of particular gospels that he's trying to dispute, refute, or prohibit? when he
No,
talks about don't believe these other gospels?
he's not
No?
referring to books. He's referring to messages. And so the term gospel in Greek is euangelion, and it means good news. But it's a euangelion was when like your village is at war and your soldiers have won, and the messenger comes back and gives you the euangelion, the good news. We won. And so
Hmm.
it's just a secular term that Christians take over to refer to the good news, which is the message of Jesus. And then when books start circulating that relate this good news, those are called good news. So the books are called gospels. So he's not referring to any of those because they weren't written yet. The gospels were written, probably 2 decades after uh, Paul wrote his letters.
Okay. So, and then as I understand it, I mean, magical enchantments are called blessings when they're positive and curses when they're negative. And I've read in the Old Testament where believers bless God as if God needs our blessing, or as if it's even within the power of humanity to bless God. But then how are we supposed to curse an angel for teaching the wrong gospel?
I think you flipped them a bird, but I'm not sure. They don't say.
All
I
right.
think you just tell them to go to hell, literally.
And then the last one on this topic is whether we're talking about the canonical gospels, or I think he wrote about 16 other gospels that were unknown, or that were
Oh, we have
controversial,
no,
not
we have
accepted.
way more than I've got a collection of them called the other Gospels, and we have complete or part portions of Gospels from the first 4 centuries. We have about 40 of them.
40.
Hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm going to be talking about some of them in this course because a lot of them take views that the Orthodox people didn't like, and they're portraying Jesus saying things that they didn't think he said. And so we have Gnostic Gospels and Jewish Christian Gospels and all sorts of different Gospels. Yeah,
And all of these pertaining to Jesus?
yeah, yeah. So the way I define God, my colleagues Laco Place and I translated all of the Gospels from the first 400 years that are found in Greek, Latin, and Coptic, and we put them in a collection called the Other Gospels. And uh, and these are we the way we defined Gospels were books that try to give the words or the deeds or the life of Jesus, a historical Jesus. And so they're all in one way or another about that.
Outstanding. And just imagine how different not just the Bible would be, but how different Christianity would be if it had 10 times as many gospels in it.
Well, but that's the issue, isn't it? I mean, because one of the points I'm going to be making in this course is that the way we got our 4 Gospels is because there are all these others out there too, and they had to decide which ones are authoritative, given the different views being represented. And so it's closely related to the debates among different groups claiming, well, we're right, no, we're right, and one group ending up winning out and determining what Christianity then would be for all time.
I've read some of the non-canonical gospels, they're terribly interesting. Sometimes fascinating. I would love to know about all of these others,
Yeah,
so I should tune in for this one.
you should for all sorts of reasons. It's going to be fun.